All right, great stuff. We are going to talk some Minnesota versus North Carolina. North Carolina at Minnesota. Very close spread in this one. Minnesota -1.5. This game is Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern time on Fox. Going to be a very fun one. PJ Fleck, obviously head coach for Minnesota, and Max Brosmer, is going to be the quarterback for them. Mac Brown still kicking it over there at North Carolina. And very interesting quarterback situation. Mac Brown says both quarterbacks, Max Johnson and whatever his first name is, Harrell. I'm blanking on it now.
Connor Harrell.
Connor Harrell. I almost said another name, but I was like, no, that's the Purdue's offensive coordinator. So not him. I think it's Graham Harrell.
Graham Harrell, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so very interesting to see what North Carolina is going to do here. I think Minnesota is much more shored up in kind of their personnel. We'll see if there's some strange injuries. Curt, I'll let you talk about that and explain it because you know much more about PJ than I do. So explain the injury stuff going on and then give us some of your thoughts on the game overall.
Yeah. So like a week ago, there was an open practice to the media. The media was there. Daniel Jackson, who's our receiver number 1, was sitting out. Now, PJ talked about that one a little bit more. That one sounded more precautionary. He went into like they're a lot more into analytical data and reps they're putting on these players' bodies now and all this stuff. And so maybe he was a little.
You sound like you love that. You sound like you love the analytics, Curt.
Whatever. If it keeps him healthy, great. Go for it. But he just better be there during the season now that he's, missing reps. But yeah, so that one sounded a little bit more precautionary, not as serious, but nonetheless, he did sit out. So that was one talking point. And then Darius Taylor was seen, running, I don't know, some wheel route or something, running down the field, catching a football, and was kind of limping off the field, immediately got medical attention. One writer said they noticed they were icing his hamstring, which the hamstring, I don't know if it's the same one on the same leg, but that was his injury last year. So as a Gopher fan, that one's a little bit more concerning to me, especially with how much we like to run the ball. So PJ's not going to tell us, though, up until he has to, who's going to play or not. The Big Ten implemented that rule of, they have up until 2 hours before game time to release the official depth chart of who's questionable, who's in. Smart money would say that Darius Taylor would be listed as questionable just to, again, not know until he's actually out there. But I think he's going to play just because PJ hasn't been alluding to anything super serious or anything. And anytime he's asked about him, he says he's doing great, but you'll see when the depth chart comes out. So I'm assuming he's in. And if you're North Carolina, I don't get why you would assume, you're going to practice for him to be in anyway, just being as much of a vocal point of the offense he's going to be. Far as
quick thing really fast, Curt. Thing. Is it possible that PJ Fleck, was kind of like nudging Darius Taylor, like, hey, we need an edge in this game. I want you to go out there. I want you to run that route. I want you to come up, same hamstring as last time. Just be holding it a little bit. All right, we'll get the news out there. Mac Brown will think about it. He doesn't know which quarterback. He doesn't know which running back is coming. Could be you, could be Newbin, or whoever else is over there. And then he did the same thing with Daniel Jackson. He's like, hey, just a little bit of a get him talking. Could PJ Fleck be just in Mac Brown's head right now?
No, I think the short answer is no, but I hope so. PJ is a very paranoid guy. He wants everything as in-house as possible. He does think about that stuff a lot. So maybe, but at the same time, he also doesn't like reporters to be fishing for questions as well. So I don't think he would put the players up to that, but it's an interesting, it's an interesting point, and I hope that's what it is, because obviously we're all excited to see a 100% healthy Darius Taylor throughout the year. At least that's what we're hoping for. So,
me too. Me too. All right, sorry, Curt, I interrupted you.
No, that's right.
Your thoughts on the game overall, Zach? We'll get to you in a second. I promise. We'll give Curt the floor first.
Go.
Putting this as simple terms as possible, because I could probably go on for 25 minutes on this. I'll try and keep it short here. Start with offensively, Max Brosmer coming in, everyone gives Iowa a lot of crap, which we're all for. We beat them, so we can do that too now. And, but they couldn't throw the ball last year. We weren't far behind them. We could not throw the football last year. We were down there as far as passing attempts with the Naval Academy. You know, we ran it just as much as the academy schools. So what's this passing game going to look like? It's what everyone's been curious about. Everyone's been thirsting for a competent passing game since the 2019 season. I'm not expecting it to be of the 2019 quality where we had Tyler Johnson and Rashad Bateman. You know, we like Daniel Jackson. He's a legit Big Ten #1. You know, the other guys around him are a little bit unproven. We like Lemeki Brockington. Elijah Spencer's in his second year, who transferred in from Charlotte, and he was on the all-conference freshman team there when he was there down at Charlotte. So he's got a lot of praise, and it was a little bit baffling last year how little we were able to make it work with him. But it sounds like he's doing everything they're asking of him this year. So really offensively, you know, we like the offensive line. We like the running backs. Marcus Major just got compared to Mo Ibrahim from PJ the other day in a presser. And so I assume he's running back #2 now to start the year. You don't get compared to Mo, and, you know, I'm sure he'll be out there. So offense, I feel pretty good just as long as we can get some sort of passing game going. Defensively, new defensive coordinator, which North Carolina does have as well. You know, we really struggled covering pass plays over the middle. And then from there, it would just kind of get wonky on us and we'd give up a big plays. During the Big Ten media days, they had the stat, you know, last year we gave up more 20-yard plus plays than we did the previous 2 seasons combined. So big plays were an issue last year. And, you know, Tyler Nubin, who's in the NFL now, drafted the second round of the Giants, he was the playmaker on that defense. That wasn't on the defensive line. So the defensive line is supposed to be the strength of this defense. I think they're going to have to play extremely well to keep the Gophers in this game because we didn't bring in any transfers in the linebacker position, which I thought was a surprise. So very curious to see how we're able to cover in space defensively.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that's going to be huge is how Minnesota can adjust on defense. Might be a bit of a shootout here with 2 new defensive coordinators coming in and getting their guys ready. I mean, you know, as much as a shootout can be for, you know, Minnesota in these situations, as much as PJ Fleck might not let it happen. But hey, he's got the FCS passing leader from last year, so maybe PJ Fleck is planning to do a little bit more of that. We'll see. Zach, your general thoughts on just the game overall, keys, you know, strengths, weaknesses. What do you think?
So I'm here to give some hope to Curt. I'm here to share some good news to you. I think this is a bad matchup for UNC. And particularly you look at UNC's offensive line. 4 new starters. I believe the Willie Lampkin is their only returning starter. You know, you have Austin Blaske come in from Georgia. He played in a lot of games but didn't start. They bring in a transfer from my alma mater, Muhlenberg, which is a D3 school, on the offensive line, Zack Greenberg. So good for him. D3 is very different from having to face a Big Ten team. You know, so I think that offensive line is young. They don't have Drake May anymore. You know, Max Johnson has been a bit of a journeyman. You know, had some good games at LSU, probably some good games at A&M, but also, you know, inconsistent. You know, if it's Connor Harrell, he doesn't have any experience. So I think there's a lot of question marks for me on how potent this offense can be. And they're one proven commodity, Marion Hampton, you know, 1,500 yards in the running game a year ago as a running back, second team All-American. So really, really good player. But that was with a very different offensive line. That was with a passing game that was, I think, a lot more proven. And they're going up against an improved defensive line for Minnesota. So I'm not sure. I think the big issue is the injuries. Like if Daniel Jackson and Darius Taylor can't go, then I think this is a lot different because I you know, those are the 2 proven playmakers. And as good as Brosmer will be, I think he's going to be, I think to take away Daniel Jackson, who I think is one of the most underrated receivers in the Big Ten, if not the country, that's huge if he's gone. And it's huge if Taylor is gone. But if they're playing, you know, a year ago, I gave the athleticism edge to UNC. This year, I give it a little to Minnesota. And I think there's just too many edges on Minnesota's side. I have a double-digit win here for Minnesota.
Oh, I like that. I
Wow.
hope you're right. Sorry, JR, I'll let you go. One thing I was just going to add, I look at it on the defensive side as a Gopher fan, and they have all their weapons back for the most part. I know they lost Tez Walker. He wouldn't even play last game. He was still suspended for, I don't even remember he wasn't approved yet by the NCAA for whatever reason they gave. But and they still threw for 400 yards. Granted, that was Drake May. McCollum absolutely torched us for 165 and a couple touchdowns last year. So curious to see, because, Newbin fixed a lot of mistakes. Well, not enough clearly, but he was kind of the eraser back there. And so I'm curious to see 2 new full-time starting safeties back there. How we're going to adjust to that makes me nervous. But that's a lot to gel on their offensive line. And Jaw Joyner's expected to have a big season. He's a really good pass rusher. Anthony Smith is behind him. Not a lot of people know about him. He was very effective when he played last year. And you got Devin Eastern inside creating pressure up the middle. So those guys are going to have to be huge, like I said, to get the job done.
Yeah. I mean, huge thing for me was what you said there, Zach, was the offensive line for North Carolina. I think Jaw Joyner is in for a huge year. I think Anthony Smith could really do a good job this year as well. I've posted about both of those guys on Twitter, and there's been some really good comments coming out of camp with what's going on with them by PJ Fleck. He's really the only one that's seeing what's going on. So we have to trust his comments, but yeah, I think both of those guys are going to do a good job on the defensive line. I mean, Minnesota, I do worry about their secondary, right? I mean, they had 2 of the best safeties in the nation last year, and now they're going to have to go without them with some new guys, and then they're also going to have to figure out a new defensive coordinator. So I am a little concerned about that, but I would think if Drake May was back, no way. I think North Carolina is winning this game. But the fact that you have a 2 quarterback system, Max Johnson, Connor Harrell, who neither in their career, I know Max Johnson has been in more in his career, neither of them have ever shown anything to really make me say, I really believe in this guy. I'm sure Max Johnson has improved and he's getting better, but I don't think he's a difference maker. I don't think he's somebody that is going to hurt Minnesota's secondary time and time again. Will he get him a few times? I'm sure it'll happen. I'm sure there will be a few times that happens. But at the end of the day, guys, I see this one going into the 30s. I think that this is going to be a 34-28 win for Minnesota, because I look at Daniel Jackson, Darius Taylor. If both those guys are playing, in addition to Max Brosmer, the left tackle, Curt, help me out. How you say the name?
Ariante Ursary, I believe is.
There we go.
Yep.
Ariante Ursary. It's not as hard as I thought, but he's coming in. He's going to be helping it as well. North Carolina has a really good edge rusher in Kamon Rucker. If he gets matched up against Ursary a number of times, that could do really good things for Minnesota and kind of make that issue a little bit less. One of the biggest things with Max Brosmer is you are going to have to protect this guy, because he's not going to get himself out of the pocket, running around, creating time for himself. He just doesn't have that athleticism. Does he move around the pocket well? Sure. He's good moving around the pocket, but he's not Bryce Young, right? He's not going to be getting outside the pocket and creating time. He'll create time moving around in the pocket, but overall, this is somebody that you're going to need to protect well, and I think Ursary is going to be a good piece for that. All right. I gave my prediction there, 34-28. Zach, you have something you want to say before we do predictions?
Well, I was just going to ask a question. How much, I appreciate you bringing in Nate McCollum and Nate McCollum's name, Curt, because I think he's going to be a playmaker for the Tar Heels. How much do you think his production was because Tez Walker was also on the field against Minnesota?
Well, so I think actually Tez Walker was out that game.
Was he out that game?
Yeah, okay. I think it was his last game he had to sit out. Watching that game, it was kind of the story of last year was we just had too many busts in coverage. It was just like guys running wide open, guys jumping up the underneath route while they sent the post behind them, kind of basic things. And that was kind of the issue I had with the defense last year, is just like, we have some nice players on that side of the ball, but we're just completely blowing coverages. Like, we had them in a lot of 3rd and 8s and 3rd and 7s last year, but they converted like It was like absurd, like 70% of them or something. We just could not get off the field on third down against them last year. And we actually held the running back in check running the football. Now, I don't know if that's because they just went air raid on us. They were throwing for 400 yards. So we'll see what it looks like when they're feeding them a little bit more. But I do like, I think we'll be a lot better up front and being able to stop him enough. But he's a great player. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out.
Yep. Good thought. Good thought there. All right, Curt, we'll go back to you for score prediction in this one. What are you looking at? Like I said, -1.5 in favor of Minnesota. What's your thoughts here, Curt?
Yeah, so I picked the Gophers to do really well, optimistically well this year. I have them 8-4 on the year, which I know is high, and can't help the fandom. But I did pick them to drop this game to open the season against North Carolina. I think Corey Heatherman, the new defensive coordinator, is going to do great, but it's just a lot of new pieces in that secondary. Well, the safeties, I should say. And then the linebackers have to prove it to me that they can cover stuff, which is what we haven't seen yet. So I think they're going to get a lot better as the year goes on. I just think North Carolina potentially has the best weapons that we'll see maybe all year. I know USC's got good weapons as well, but North Carolina's got good skill position players. So I have us losing a more of a shootout game as well. I have 31-28 North Carolina, but I think we improve immensely as the year goes on.
All right. Zach, are you going to make the lone Minnesota fan on this podcast be the only one to pick Minnesota to lose? Your thoughts?
I am. I'm going to do that. And I see this game playing out a little differently. I just think, like, I appreciate what you're saying that the secondary is a concern. I just look at the defensive line matchup with the offensive line with that quarterback, and I'm like, I don't care how good your weapons are. I mean, we saw it in the Cotton Bowl, as a scarred Ohio State fan. It does not matter how good your receivers are if your offensive line can't block and if you have a quarterback that's ineffective. And I just think, like, Drake May might, I don't know what he's looked like in the NFL yet, but like there was buzz that he might be the most NFL ready quarterback coming out in the past draft. That is not Max Johnson or Connor Harrell. I mean, I don't know about Connor Harrell, but like, it's certainly not Max Johnson. And, I said there's two proven commodities in McCollum and the running back. So I stand corrected there, but that trench battle really concerns me. And I think it's really going to be a problem as they're driving. So I actually have a 27-16 score because I think North Carolina will drive the ball. I don't think they're going to be able to punch it in because of the offensive line and quarterback issues. And I think Minnesota will be able to get touchdowns. So that's my score, 27-16.
I love it.
I forgot to ask Curt. I chose Minnesota to get 2 field goals. However, I didn't look much into the kicking situation this year. What's the kicker looking like over at Minnesota? Maybe I should change my prediction to 35 instead of 34.
No. We got the Big Ten kicker of the year returning in Dragon Kesic. So we get the game winner from 50+ last year. And usually PJ referenced this actually at Big Ten Media Days. Usually when your kicker wins Big Ten kicker of the year, it means he didn't score a lot of touchdowns, which the Gophers did not score enough touchdowns last year. But so hoping to see a little bit less of him, but happy to have him back. He's got a leg and he was pretty accurate for college kickers. It's gonna be a great game.
That's on me. I didn't do my kicker homework before the game. I picked maybe I'll go 33-28 in this one. Just give him an extra one. Say He'll get one more kick. I don't know. We'll see. But I do believe in Dragon. If your name is Dragon and you're a kicker, watch out.
There you go.
All right. Hey, I think really good stuff there, guys. Anything else on Minnesota, North Carolina before we move on?
I was just gonna say we did our crossover with the North Carolina affiliate through the College Huddle, the Heel brothers, and they had great insight. They have a new defensive coordinator as well. And so their mindset's kind of the same as us. Minnesota, we just want to simplify things, take the big plays away. They have the benefit of having a little bit more 4- and 5-star recruits on that side of the ball for them. So they just want to limit the big plays as well, but hopefully it doesn't go that way for them.
We saw what happens when you have more stars in Ireland, so maybe
That's
more
true.
stars in Minneapolis will work out the same way. So we'll see.
Yeah, I sound like such a pessimist. I just want to also my two other co-hosts on Scotty Pod both picked the Gophers to win, so we're not like just down. You know, there are a lot of negative Minnesota fans. I'm not one of them. It's a tough opening game. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say you're just looking at it and you're saying, hey, if we're gonna go 8-4, we have to drop one of these somewhere.
That's right.
That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
So makes sense.